Were you aware that 1 in 3 women in the United States will at some point in their life be violently abused by their significant other?
To truly understand the gravity of this statistic, I have here a die. If I roll a 1 or a 2, that will represent the women in the United States who will at some point
Be physically abused.
So obviously this issue is not as simple as rolling a die, but the idea remains the same. So what is domestic abuse?
That becomes a very personal question because it looks different in different situations or for different individuals.
Right.
However, there are, of course, common themes beyond physical violence, emotional abuse, insults, put downs, belittling, undermining someone's confidence. Financial abuse is a huge aspect of it. Controlling money, not letting a partner make decisions about money or have control over what they make or spend or anything like that.
Who is affected by domestic abuse?
All genders, all ages, all races and ethnicities, all nationalities, all education levels, all socioeconomic classes, all religions. Unfortunately, no one is immune.
This is what makes domestic abuse such an important issue. As mentioned earlier, 1 in 3 women in the United States will at some point be violently abused by their partner. The same goes for 1 in 7 men. What makes these statistics even more depressing is that it is estimated that less than 1% of all cases of domestic violence get reported. This means that those statistics could be much higher. What's even more shocking is that between the years 2001 and 2012, 6,500 troops were killed in Afghanistan. However, the amount of American women who were killed by their current or ex-partners was almost 12,000 during that same time period. How does it affect the victim? Domestic abuse can have many short-term and long-term effects on the victim or even the bystanders. The obvious short-term effect would be any sort of physical damage from violence, like cuts and bruises.
I talked to another woman whose boyfriend had thrown her down on the ground and stepped on her head, and she had a bruise on the side of her face where his boot was.
But oftentimes the worst effects are the long-term ones. Domestic abuse can lead to PTSD, depression, or dissociation. Dissociation is when the victim disconnects themselves from reality, and they are just going through the motions of living. Bystanders can also be affected. This is oftentimes children. Children who have been exposed to domestic abuse and violence are seen to be more fearful and anxious. Many times they worry about when the next beating will happen, or they will blame themselves for why their parent or sibling was beaten. Physiological effects on children bystanders could be headaches, wetting the bed, or being unable to concentrate. Because of how universal the victims are, and due to the severity of the consequences, such as death, it raises the question of what can be done to prevent abuse from affecting yourself or others. One thing that can be done is to set boundaries for yourself when in relationships. This will make it easier to identify if you are being taken advantage of or abused. These boundaries depend on the numerous variables such as religion, sexuality, education, sex, etc. Well, what should you do if a friend is saying that they are being abused by a partner?
Believe that what they're telling you is their experience, and don't try to say, but he's such a nice guy, or but she would never do that, or just believe them, that they're telling you what they're experiencing. And then the other part of that is don't push them to make a decision before they're ready. Especially among young women, it's really hard to just say no.
There are also many reasons why a victim would not leave an abusive relationship. They could have been threatened if they leave. Or they could be financially supported by the abusive partner. They could even feel safer knowing where the abuser is.
If someone is to a point where they're ready to get help, they can always just call Tubman or another service provider. Many domestic violence providers have 24-hour hotlines, so you can just call and talk to a trained advocate, and really the conversation will be very open-ended, and it's just what's going on, what's happening in your life, so that the advocate can then help here's what services we have available, or, here's a different agency that maybe can offer you something.
This is a pressing issue that needs to be addressed. Anyone and everyone can be abused, and most people already know someone in their lives that have been abused. To help fight the problem even further, you, yes you, can donate money to a variety of nonprofit organizations that provide services to victims of abuse and help educate the public. The links shown are places to donate to. You can also become a volunteer of the many 24-hour hotline phone services, but if that is too much, then at least inform a friend about the dangers of domestic abuse. And if they have dealt with abusive partners, then tell them about organizations like Tubman or MN Women.
Tubman provides emergency shelter. That's probably what people think of first when they see us. But the truth is, a lot of people don't need shelter. It's really sort of a last case resort for people who have nowhere else to go. Many people experiencing domestic violence come to us for legal services, whether that's for getting an order for protection to keep their abusive partner away from them, or for family law services, whether that's a divorce or a custody issue or some other type of legal matter. So we do quite a bit of that, and then also we do mental and chemical health counseling.
If dreams can't come true, then why not pretend?